Thank you, Madam Speaker. And unlike previous speakers, I'm actually going to talk about the bill. I'm going to talk about the intent of the bill, because I think that's what we're here. Because I often hear we're here to pass good laws. Well, this is a good law, a very good law. And so I commend the Minister and his agency for all the work they've done for bringing this bill before us. And just as a bit of background, Madam Speaker, I've actually got a bit of a history and a bit of a passion about waste management technologies. And I'll refer people, if you want to get onto your Google, anyone, look up waste management technologies, opportunities for research and manufacturing in Australia by Brian O'Gallagher, published in 1990. And there's a copy at the National Library. And that was when I was with the Department of Industry and Technology in Canberra. And may I say, that particular book, they had to publish 3 times. It was so popular. And it was looking at research across the country. And the key focus I was trying to get, and the key message I was trying to get, is there's actually money to be made out of waste, because people were throwing things away and they didn't understand that there's actually a business opportunity with it. And I went through various initiatives, researchers and companies that were actually doing innovative stuff at the time. You probably wouldn't think they were innovative now, but they were at the time. And a key focus of that is recycling. Recycling is a practical environmental initiative. Absolutely practical environmental initiative. And I suggest this is part of our government's philosophy when we look at the environment. We are absolutely committed to protecting the environment, but we're doing it in practical initiatives that people can get behind and do on the ground, not just theoretical, philosophies there trying to restrain us, but how can we get on the ground and keep the environment clean? And this fits into that broader recycling strategy. But I probably also need to go back to when my parents were around. Now, I think they were doing recycling, and I think we've lost it somewhere on the way there, and we've got into this throwaway, dispose everything, single-use use of commodities. And I actually agree with the member for Nightcliff. I think over-packaging and all those things are absolutely wrong, and we do need to minimise that. But let me go back to my father. He was a hard-working bricklayer, and he worked very hard, and he supported a family of 6 kids, and my mother was a wonderful mother who did just as much work at home herself, looking after everyone. But he'd come at the end of the week, he'd have these beer bottles, and they were the big bottles. Down in Victoria, they were the Abbott's Lager. You might have he couldn't afford Crown Lager or that. He'd have the Abbott's Lager, he'd have the Stout, or he might have the VB, maybe Foster's as it came on. But they got the big bottles. And you know what they did? They kept them. They put them up near the ward shed, and they'd stack them up. And I tell you what, after 6 months later, he'd have a heap and he'd take them up to the bottle-o and cash them in. Cash them in. And you know what that money went for? That went to pay for our school fees. And he used to come home and he said, "I'm only drinking to put you guys to school." Now, Mum didn't believe all that, but that was his rationale. But it was true recycling. That's how they did it. And now, when I look around, people just throw things away. They smash things away. But I've also got to say, as you know, I was on the City of Darwin City Council. I was a big supporter and advocate that council needed to do better in recycling. And I've heard the attributions to the Alice Springs Council doing glass recycling, magnificent. The City of Darwin didn't do glass recycling. They should have done it. I urge that they were big enough to think about getting a full glass recycling facility here. But, oh no, we can't afford that, can't do that. I think they should. They need to get a really good 10-year plan, and how can we achieve that, and maybe then go out to the federal government, the NT government, and do it as a collective idea going forward. I think that would be a brilliant idea, and I hope that the City of Darwin take that up. But think about it. All those bottles, wine bottles, people were no use putting them in the yellow bin because we didn't have a recycling facility. They were actually them separating them when they came through. They had to take them out so they could take them out of the proper recycling stuff, particularly the green wine bottles, and put them into the landfill. It was better off, you were better off putting your wine bottles into the red bin, whereas people generally thought, oh no, glass goes into recycling. It's a natural thing for people to think. Well, this container deposit legislation really urges people to say, hey, you've got your wine bottles, you've got your milk bottles, anything up to 3 litres, you can keep your lids on, whatever, but you can get some money back. You can earn something out of this. Don't go smashing them up, don't go wasting them. And as the member for Blaine said, we're looking for incentives, and this really does move people along. So I see this as a fantastic opportunity. And I think when I look at my own electorate in Karama, one of the biggest issues you find, and I walk every street, I go through all the parks, is the litter, the broken glass. I've got, and I'll refer to Mr. Dean White, who I call the unofficial mayor of Karama. The number of times he sends me photos of bottles or smashed glass on footpaths or around bus stops, or other residents send me around the playgrounds. They say, can we get the council to clean this up because the kids can't go and play? We've got broken glass everywhere. And it is a major scourge in my electorate. Like others, I come into my own electorate at the Karama shops and I'll see some smashed up broken bottles just out in the car park. I see cans and so on. I'll actually go out with a plastic bag and pick it up and put it away because it's just not right. I'll then report it to the store owners, but, you know, you've got to do your own thing sometimes. You've got to lead by example. And I've heard from the member of Drysdale and others, and certainly the member for Casuarina, they're out there, they're getting their hands dirty, they're doing the real thing. And I heard from the member for Nightcliff too, so I'll give tribute to that as well. It really is important, and those bus stops, and may I say, I thank the Minister for Transport. I've been able to get some bins beside some of those bus stops where we had a lot of rubbish put in. Hopefully now people actually say, oh, I don't have to just throw it under the seat and smash it. There's actually a bin there. We probably need to do a lot more on education and convincing people to actually use things. People have to take personal responsibility for their own actions, but it's a good start. But now we're actually generating a little bit of a driver as to, hey, there is some money in this. And I heard the member for Wanguri, and like her, the Down syndrome people come round. I've got it at my own house. They come in, they put the crates there, and you put your Coke cans there, whatever. Well, now I'll be able to give them wine bottles and everything else. And occasionally they'll get a few of those too after a couple of celebrations, I can tell you that. Particularly after we celebrated our 1 year in government. I thought that was a good reason to have a glass of wine. But they can make some money out of this. And it's not only them, it's the scouting groups. They can do it. It's really important that we think about all these things. We've got to incentivise it. And I take on board that we may look on a review of upping the price to 20 cents. I would support that too. It would only give more incentive. I think it's a fantastic idea. But the fact that we're actually moving to this, that we don't actually have to wait. We're going to have transition arrangements where you don't have to wait for the labels on the wine bottles for 2 years. They'll still take it. You can still earn it. There is a business to be made here. And finally, and I'm conscious of time, and I do want the Minister to have time to wrap up, but I heard the member for Arafura talking about remote areas. You know, you've got to learn to service the remote areas. This legislation is for the whole of the territory, member for, through Madam Speaker, is for the whole of the territory. And being on a council myself, I know there are opportunities for local councils and local authorities to come up with innovative ways of saying, hey, you give us all your stuff, we can actually make money out of this. They can earn money for their own, and they can actually be the initiators of saying, yes, give us a collection point here, we'll refund you, we'll work out an arrangement how we can get it to a larger distribution point. That's a normal way of business. Government doesn't have to do it. The more we do it from the grassroots, the better. It really can be owned by everyone, and they feel empowered. So why I absolutely agree remote areas will need it, look at ways how we can facilitate that. That is what I think we should do, and I think all members, particularly our bush members, should be out there talking to their local councils and authorities saying, hey, have you ever thought of taking advantage of this? You can actually make money, increase your rate base. So I really do like that idea. Other benefits, of course, tourism. The number of litter down our highways and so on, if we can clean that up, it makes it all the better for tourism. Caravan parks can be a source of collection. You know, camping grounds can be a source of collection. There's money to be made. There is money to be made. And finally, I'll just go back. I understand some of the glass we're going to capture now will actually be crushed and then sent down to Adelaide. Now, that may be because that's where the processing plants for road bases and things like that. Now, I know we were doing a little bit in Alice Springs. I think as the volume gets going, we need to see if there's an opportunity of doing some of that here. Because if I go back to my own electorate, if we collected all the yellowtail bottles that I find around our parks and we crushed them up and put them in the road base, we could build a yellow brick road. And I'm telling you that. So, you know, this is the Dorothy from Oz, you know, she'd love it. But we do need to do it. I commend the bill. Recycling is fantastic. It is a business opportunity all round, and I do thank everyone, and I commend the bill.